abuse this sin out of her. Like, how could you? Like, this is bringing shame to our name, to, to what we stand for. And just that whole moment itself was like a big example of like, when I'm doing things that is not pleasing in other people's eyes, I'm put down for it. But when I do things that people feel like is a great job, I'm uplifted for it. And going into 19 and going into my 20s, I realized, okay, like, I feel like I was being conditioned to please people. Okay, so let's get into it. As early as a teenager, I was rewarded for doing good. So back then, I was a part of a lot of girl organizations, and I was also in that space of being a young entrepreneur.
Hi, I'm Tori and I'm the owner of Cuddle Up Cakes by Tori.
And I was also the face of these things. And when I would do good, I would be rewarded. It would be like, oh, you're doing an amazing job. This is amazing. And it felt really good. But at the same time, I was a teenager, so I was also rebellious. And there was moments when I wasn't technically doing good and I was rebelling. And that response was more, how could you? This is disappointing. I was either being emotionally abused for not listening or doing something out of line, or I was being physically abused for not listening or doing something out of line, typical teenager stuff, right? And so at some point between 18 going into my 20s, I realized, when I do things that people approve of, that they like, I'm celebrated. But when I do things that I feel is who I am, me exploring who I am, me trying to figure things out, I'm chastised for it. So for an example, when I was a teenager, I was being raised in the church. And there was a moment where I was, quote unquote, sinning for a lifestyle choice that I chose, which was dating girls. Who would have knew? So that was clearly against, the Christianity movement. And I was doing it anyway. And I would lie about it. And I would say, like, this is just my friend. And anyway, so when it came out, it was like this big ordeal. Like, I think the approach was, let me abuse this sin out of her. Like, how could you? Like, this is bringing shame to our name, to, to what we stand for. And just that whole moment itself was like a big example of like me realizing when I go against myself, when I don't, how do I want to put this? When I'm doing things that is not pleasing in other people's eyes, I'm put down for it. But when I do things that people feel like is a great job, I'm uplifted for it. And going into 19 and going into my 20s, I realized, okay, like, I feel like I was being conditioned to please people. If I wanted the praise and I didn't want to be put down, then I needed to become a person that people would like. I need to stop doing things that was frowned upon and create a life that will allow me to have more positive interactions with people. So boom, me becoming a people pleaser was born. Yay. Hi, I'm Tori and I'm a recovering people pleaser. Woo! At this point, I'm in my 20s, I'm in my early 20s, and just across the board, whether it's friendships, whether it was job related, whether it was family members that were my elders, instantly it was this thing that if I give more of myself, they'll like me. If I do everything they ask of me, they won't be upset with me. If I become someone that they approve of, they won't be disappointed in me and I won't be put to shame. Like, that became my whole identity. Like, how can I become somebody that my parents approve of, that my grandparents approve of, that my coworkers and my friends and my family approve of? Like, my identity shaping was becoming It wasn't authentic to me. It was who other people saw me to be. Now, mind you, I'm 19, I'm 20. So going into the world, I was taking on everybody's opinion as fact. And that's just simply because I couldn't think for myself. I needed other people's opinion. I needed their validation. I just needed them to tell me who I was and what I needed to do. Hi, I'm Tori, and I'm a recovering people pleaser, which then led to my work experiences as an adult. So at this point, I'm 25 and up. And this is really what I want to shed light on, because present day, I'm 28 years old. I'm a woman and I'm in business, and I'm doing business with a lot of different people on a lot of different levels. So here we go. Story time. So about a couple years ago, I was doing some assistant work for this Hollywood director, right? I feel like at this time I needed something to rejuvenate my spirit, to kind of get me back into my creative flow, because a few months prior I was going through a breakup with this guy who I thought was my husband, right? So I needed something aside from my creative endeavors that I was doing, like my book Schoonlapper and my poetry. I needed something to kind of just put me in a different space, right? So I'm just like, it's like I feel like I put myself on sale. It's like, hey, I can do it. Pick me. So I got this opportunity to become an assistant to this Hollywood director who was putting on stage plays throughout Atlanta. Now, mind you, I'm all for learning. I'm all for, good exposure to things that I've never seen, so I can just expand who I am as a person. And that's how it started off. But as I got deep into it, I realized, like, okay, I'm not here because this person values me. I'm here because of what I can do for this person. Now, a lot of people will say, become who they need, like figure out what they're missing and etc. But business, relationships, it shouldn't be based off of what you can do for me. Even if you are an employee to an employer, you want to position yourself as more of an asset than coming into the situation desperate. And I will say that I came into the situation, came into the opportunity with a little bit of desperation, because I was just so hungry for something different. And I wanted to just take myself to another place, like mentally and physically. We had a lot of great experiences in that moment, but behind the scenes, it was just I was exhausted. I was constantly giving of myself. There was no work-life balance. The weekends would come and I'm like, yeah, I can do that. And yeah, that's no problem. And, it was just no boundaries there. And the whole time during this process, I never really I never went into it with boundaries. I never, made it clear, like, hey, after this time, I can't be contacted. I'll be with my family. I'll be resting, etc. However way, you want to put it. I just never established any boundaries. So it's just always like this pull. And honestly, to compare it, it was truly the Devil Wears Prada experience with Miranda and what's the girl's name again? Miranda and what's her name for Devil Wears Prada? It's not Emily. Is it Alex? I can't think of it right now, but you guys know what I'm talking about. It's Anne Hathaway. Okay, she played in Devil Wears Prada. I believe that was Anne Hathaway. I can't even look it up right now. But the point of the matter I'm trying to make is that experience was truly how can I become less of me so I can become more for you? And that is the most unhealthy thing that you can do as a woman, period. It's like you relinquish your power, you relinquish your control over your life. Your life is now being puppeteered by somebody else who knows that you have no boundaries, who knows that you're probably insecure, who knows that they can just get away with it because they're more charming in certain areas with maybe how they word things or how they it's just a lot of strategic things that come into business that you can get away with if you articulate yourself in a certain way. And that experience was it was an experience. That experience definitely like woke me up to who I was in that moment of my life. Prior to going into it, yes, I was overcoming a heartbreak, but I thought I was at a different place within myself. And that experience definitely put a mirror up to me like, no, you are a people pleaser. Like, everything you do is for the validation of everybody around you. Snap out of it. At this point, I was associating my worth with material things, money, and experiences. I noticed how the people I had around me at that time, it's like they value me when they can get something from me. But as soon as I put a boundary there, it was like, how could you? You're the worst person. You have no integrity. And it just became like, like I cursed these people out or something, all because no, I can't do that, or no, I can't do this anymore. Like, this isn't aligning with who I am as a person. I know without a doubt that a lot of my work relationships prior to this point, a lot of my intimate dating experiences and friendships, the reason why they didn't pan out the way that I thought is because of the deep-rooted people pleaser wound that was created in me as a teenager. It's like that was the foundation of my identity forming. And the few things that I had to do in order to step out of this, which was really hard and really challenging at the time, was become fully aware of myself. Self-awareness was like the major thing. Like, Tori, why do you keep putting yourself in these positions? You just came out of this heartbreaking situation with this guy and you were going above and beyond for him. You were doing this, that, and the third, and he didn't have any gratitude, for it. How are you now in a situation that's work related where you feel you're going above and beyond and you're being cursed out because, an email wasn't put together properly, or you're being fussed out because the shading of the flyer wasn't the exact shading, or the elements on the flyer weren't like, how do you keep putting yourself in these positions? And the lack of self-awareness was definitely one of the reasons why I kept putting myself in a place of feeling like I needed people, places, and things outside of me in order to make me feel good about myself. I lacked setting boundaries. I had no boundaries. That just was never really a thing growing up, like having boundaries. Like, everybody was a part of everybody's business. And if you wasn't a part of their business, as soon as you found out, if it wasn't what you liked, then it was a problem. And so boundaries was never really a thing that was established for me growing up. Like, I would just have everybody all up in the mix, and that's not even healthy. This also put me in a place of stepping further and further away from my most authentic self, because I was constantly trying to be this for everybody, and if I say no and I can't do that, they're not gonna like me. Because I was constantly not acknowledging my needs and putting people's needs before me, it's like I was distancing myself from myself. And now I'm in this place behind closed doors where I'm in an emotional and mental turmoil. I can't seem to find my footing because one part of me is wanting to be validated by the people around me so they can say, "Hoorah, you're doing a good job." And another part of me is sinking because I'm not taking time to care for her and nurture her. The last two ways I helped myself transition from being a people pleaser to now standing in my power and who I am as a woman is celebrating my small wins, okay? And I do this with myself or with my friends. I don't need to wait for people to celebrate me. Even if it's something small like you got the job interview. Celebrate that. And you don't have to go run off and tell everybody that you got the job interview, or you just hit 1,000 sales on your new product. Like, celebrate that win for yourself and acknowledge the hard work that you had to put in for getting to that point. Lastly, I now surround myself with supportive people, period. If you're not supporting the movement, you against the movement, okay? Pretty much. Like, character is everything for me in this season. If your character is not aligned with the fruits of the spirit, then you're not in my personal mix. We're not giving people 1,000 chances when they disrespect you or curse you out or fuss you out or just do something that's just out of line. We're not giving people second chances for that anymore, okay? We're surrounding ourselves and we're staying only in the parameters of a community that is uplifting. Yes, a community that can hold you accountable and let you know if you are out of line, but they're doing it in a respectful, tasteful, and gentle way, okay? We don't have to no longer surround ourselves with people who have to yell at us so we can get it right. Like, that's not the movement anymore. At least that's not the movement for my campaign. So I wanted to get on here and talk to you guys about how I'm a recovering people pleaser. And till this day, I am still implementing that in all of my experiences and everything that I do in all of my relationships. I'm making sure that I'm not putting myself on the back burner. Of course, there are some dynamics that are very important to us, and sometimes you can't put yourself first in that scenario. If you're a mother with children, you can't be constantly putting yourself first, especially if you have young children. It's a spectrum, okay? If you're married, you can't constantly be putting yourself first when you have to tend to your husband. There's things that, of course, we can't always be in a place of me, self-love, self-care. But at the same time, it is you before anything else. You cannot be these things. You cannot show up as a wife. You cannot show up as a loving mother and a loving wife if you're not loving yourself, if you're not looking at yourself in the mirror and letting yourself know you are worthy, okay? You do not need to wait for people in the audience to congratulate you, okay? So thank you guys for listening. I hope this resonated with you. Subscribe, follow, do what you feel like you need to do, okay? But whatever you do, shift your belief. That's the main thing. Shift your belief. Shift your belief from constantly needing people to approve of who you are as a person. That's not the wave anymore, okay? It should have never been the wave, and we all grow through it. We all go through a period in our life where we feel like we need people to give us the energy and the zeal we need to keep going. When you reach that point, you're making people and things your job. You're making people and things your God. Okay, somebody with a job, don't make your job your God. Okay, don't do that. Don't be constantly wearing yourself thin because you don't want to get fired. Don't be constantly overexerting yourself because, you don't want to lose something. So that is all I have to say about that. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll be back.